Hi, and welcome to my channel. I need to address two things right at the beginning. Number one, my glasses are broken. And I have tried my best to get them straight, and they do not want to agree with me right now. So I'm sorry. That's going to be annoying. I will try my best to turn my head, and then you won't be able to tell that my glasses are crooked. Maybe you can still tell. Number two, this is the second time I've filmed this video because I did not turn my microphone on. Why do I have recording issues every time I film? Okay, let's get into this weekly wrap up. If you've not been here before, I read lots of books in lots of genres. And so if you want to skip ahead to a different genre, just check out the timestamps below and you can click to wherever you want to go and hear about whatever kind of books you want to hear about. However, this week there aren't that many genres. But first, let's do announcements. So I don't really have any announcements except that I am going to be doing a live show with Steve from Steve Talks About Books and Stuff, or Steve Talks About Books and Things. I'm going to be talking to Steve about books and stuff and things. It's not until October the 22nd, so I'll mention it again, but I just got on his calendar and I'm excited about that. I don't have any other announcements. I do have one new subscriber, Tilly Hennessy. Thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you to all my subscribers. I got this idea to shout out subscribers from Kate at the Literary Apothecary. Okay, so let's talk about the books that I finished. I only finished 3. One nonfiction book, and that was The Beautiful Country and the Middle Kingdom by John Pomfret. This book I've been reading for a while. You've seen it pop up before if you've been here before. This was my NPR pick for the states we're in for 1 year. I don't even remember what year. It's been so long since I started this book. But I really enjoyed it. It was just a lot of information and a lot of history. And so it was very fact heavy in a lot of parts of it, but it flowed so well. It just documented the history of China and the United States since the United States became a country in 1776. I mean, so it talks about each one of the presidents and how their interaction with China went and what they decided to do in response to different things that were happening in the world. And I really enjoyed it, but like I said, it's a really big book. It's covering a large bit of history, and so it just takes a while to read it. So I just slowly went through it, and I finally finished it this week. I finished 2 fantasy books this week. First was The Talisman, which I know you've seen. I've been reading for a while. I was doing that as a buddy read with Andrew from Get Right On In, and I will say, This book wasn't horrible, it wasn't bad, but it was my least favorite Stephen King book so far. There was a huge chunk, not necessarily in the middle, but probably the beginning-ish, not the very beginning, but... Okay, do your dogs bark? My dogs can see out this window right here, and they bark because they see people way far away from them, and then they have to go outside so that they can bark at them a little bit closer. But if the people ever came up here, my dogs would just lick them to death, not do anything else. Anyway, sorry for that Django barking interruption, although some of you really enjoy seeing the dogs on my channel, so I'll make sure that I grab them before we finish this wrap up. Anyway, I don't know where I was. I was somewhere in The Talisman, and somewhere in the middle part, I guess, I really started liking it, and I liked it all the way up to the end, and then weird things happened at the end, and I thought, did I even like this ending? So anyway, there were huge chunks of it that I liked. There were parts of it that I didn't like. There were parts that I thought it just drug on too long. And so, anyway, my least favorite Stephen King book. It's also written by Peter Straub, and it's the first one I've written that the first one I've read that the two of them have written together. So maybe that's what it is, that I just don't like other people's writing in there. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm finished with it. So, the other fantasy book that I finished was Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, and I have read his Mistborn Era 1 trilogy. and I really, really liked it. And so I picked up this trilogy on an Audible sale whenever they had it, and I think this might be his YA. It's the Reckoners trilogy, and this first book is called Steelheart, and I really, really liked it. I talked to somebody the other day who really likes Brandon Sanderson, and she said this was her least favorite of his books. And I was like, oh, well, I really like it. Really like it. There's a world that's much like our own, and something happens and people get powers. And do they use those powers for good or to seize control? I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to find out. This book starts with David as a little kid. I think his name is David. Anyway, and then we jump forward to when he is almost an adult, and it's just about him and what he's trying to do. So I haven't read books 2 or 3, but I do plan to read them this month. They're on that list. Speaking of that list, I recorded my screen earlier so that you could see my list and how it's coming. So let's jump over there, and then we'll come back and talk about what I'm reading. Okay, here is my TBR list that I created at the beginning of the month. I've only read 6 books that are on this list. I'm currently reading 2 books on this list. And my problem is I've read 4 books that were either carryovers from a previous TBR or books that have popped up. And so I need to focus more on the books on my list. Okay. So you saw that I'm currently reading 2 books from that list. Well, that is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and I'm reading that with Ursi from Circe's Book. And I'm reading The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. That's my next Dark Tower read. I'm also reading The Rave by J.R. Trask, which I'm still working on my Kindle. I really like the story. I'm just not taking the time to sit down and read it, and I need to do that. I am reading Where the Forest Meets the Stars by Glendy Vanderrod. That is my book club, so I have to read it at the pace of the book club. I picked up another book in another book club called The Forest of Vanishing Stars. So it's so close. They're both forests and stars, and I'm like, wait, are they the same? They're not the same at all. But I'm reading that with a in-person book club as well, and so I just picked that up last night and just started on it. So I haven't gotten very far, but I'm planning on working on that a little bit later. I'm also reading From Scratch by Alan Salkin, and this is Inside the Food Network. I am, almost 150 pages in, and it is okay. It's not great. It's not bad. It's okay. And so this is part of my nonfiction reading that I'm trying to add in, which you can see on the last video that just went up on my channel, was all about my new nonfiction reading. Why? Okay. I'm sorry for the background noise. Apparently there's going to happen, yard work's going to happen right now outside my house. The next books that I'm going to be reading are, well, first of all, I'm going to try to get some of these 6 books that I'm reading. 6? Yeah. I'm going to try to get some of these 6 books under control before I start reading anything else. But then when I do, my next audiobook is going to be The Woman Who Rides Like a Man by Tamara Pierce. This is the next book in the Alana series and the next book in my Tamara Pierce read through. And then for my Kindle, when I finish The Rave, I'm going to start reading Traveling Shoes by V.M. Burns. So that is, and also that's still a carryover from last TBR. So that's not even on this TBR either. So I'm pretty far behind on my Kindle, on my physical and Kindle books, but I'm working on it. So that's everything. I really would like to know what you're reading, and do you ever just find yourself reading way more books than you actually expected to start reading at the same time? Or are you strictly just a one book at a time person? I would really like to know. Way back in June for the readathon, I did one book at a time because I wanted all of my focus to be on that one book, because I was trying to get a lot of points. So that's the only time I've ever done that. Usually I have multiple books going, but I never have 6 or 7 books. I usually only have 3 or 4 at the most. So this is feeling a little overwhelming, and I'm going to get it under control. Lastly, let me know what you're reading. I had a really fun time last week commenting and talking to people about what they were reading. I added a few books to my TBR that I hadn't read before, and I was able to talk with people about books that I had read that they were reading, and so it was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.